Hello everybody and welcome back for episode 76 of our Terraria 1.2.4.1 Let's Play. We are somewhere completely different, aren't we? This isn't where we're usually gonna hang out. Well, you might be interested in knowing that the reason for that is I've actually made a new world called Sandstorm ? Not Darude, no. But it's essentially just a new large world that I made up because I figured, hey, let's spend an episode looking for a sandstorm in a bottle. I think I may have even done this at one point, but I figured it would kill two birds with one stone, if you'll pardon the expression, because we might actually be hunting birds in this. I'm not entirely sure. But I was thinking we could go ahead and look for various bait items, as well as also keep on the lookout for pyramids, which have the wonderful chance of dropping one of the more rare items that I haven't run into yet across my various worlds and Terraria expeditions. And it looks like we've got a Crimson world build this time, and we've got some snow involved as well. I always find it quite cool when we see the intersection of two biomes and they don't quite merge well together. And you end up with, like, some frozen crimson and some snow at the same time. I know it's not, like, a big deal or anything, but it just sort of makes me wonder about the emergent gameplay possibilities of what if we had this sort of behavior encouraged by the game engine and while it's being built. And I did also see some of your comments and such from the last episode, and someone did chime in and let me know they are still working on Terraria 2 and that idea hadn't been scrapped. And that sort of made me hopeful that, well, maybe we can get something really awesome out of the new Terraria. Maybe it's going to be even better than this Terraria. Well, I would certainly hope. But this is, you know, pretty big shoes to fill. I don't mean to gush, but Terraria is definitely up there for one of my favorite games. It doesn't look like we had any kind of pyramids peeking out around here, right? Seemed pretty not pyramid-y, not pyramidal. Didn't notice much free energy exchange going on underneath the desert floor. Anyway, regardless, I want to say thank you again to everybody that's been watching. The last episode that went up did very well. It seems like people are still interested in watching Terraria, and I'm happy to know that because, well, I appreciate having people watching, that's all. And plus, I mean, there's endless bounties of things to do in Terraria. It'll literally never end. I could come up with some kind of task that could go on forever if I really wanted to. Again, my main goal, though, in the series, mostly just to find all the items and kill all the bosses. But I think it could also, in itself could go on forever, too. Oh, alright, so we found the dungeon. Looks like no pyramids going on in the left region. So I guess we'll just walk out to the ocean. We'll see if there's anything cool going on over there, and then we'll just mirror back and go ahead and, you know, check the other direction, then maybe make another map or something. I haven't seen anything worth grabbing either. I've been looking out on the ground. And I wonder if I made a huge mistake since this is not hard mode. Maybe the bait items don't come out until you find the fisher boy, or, I don't know, beat hard mode. I don't really know how this stuff works, guys. I'm sorry. I do have a lot of work to do, though, ahead of me. I've looked through the wiki enough to know that there's, like, a ton of projects that I'm going to have to undertake. This looks different. I don't remember there being things on the beach like this before. Seashells. Alright, well, if I run into Sally, I know about what she does with seashells, so maybe I can work out some sort of bartering exchange program with her, if she does want to be located still on the seafloor. Palmwood. Alright, we've got a new type of wood here to investigate. Let's shoot some... Can we get a light source? Oh, I have my light source. It's just not very effective here. Check out our seafaring chest. We've got a trident. We've got some tin. Take the silver, I guess. But yeah, not much useful going on down here. Some coral and the like. We've got another chest. More silver. How do I... I'll just do that for now. I don't feel like... okay, fine, I'll do it. I was gonna say, I don't feel like crafting the silver into gold at the moment, but that's just, like, insane levels of laziness at this point. And we've got a third water chest with water walking boots. I don't think I see those all that often, so I might as well grab them. Recall potion. Is that a new potion? I don't think I remember that one either. You'll see I've got a few worms and a lightning bug in my inventory. You know, that's stuff that I can deal with on another time. Oh, there's even another one. My goodness, I'm going to run out of breath soon. But yeah, the potions seem like there are numerous potions that I have not yet investigated. And there's tons and tons of different bait items that I haven't even seen yet, so it's going to require a lot of care and attention And the more I play this, the more I'm thinking maybe it is going to be the only answer if I don't come up with something sort of dependable. And I have seen all of your different ideas for how I could try to farm some of the creations that I need for, you know, bait and fishing and all that. But I think it's probably just going to end up being a lot more viable to just do some kind of long-term, grindy sort of session on a live stream or something, because it seems like it's worked well in the past, and people seem to be interested in watching those, hopefully. And if I do, in fact, make that decision, I'll try and make that known outside of just this series, because I don't want you to miss it if you are actually interested. Oh, that's a lot of trees right there. I'm thinking back to my usual world, and I'm wondering, do I need to actually, like, harvest some wood in case I feel like building more expansions to my house or something? I don't know, probably not. I could always just make another world again later, right? Also, I need to go and double check to see, now that we've updated to the fishing patch and all of that stuff, are there items that I now need to be concerned with in some of the biomes that I've prior left behind? I mean, the whole Crimson thing was pretty mysterious to begin with, because it wasn't, like, my first priority as far as, you know, getting to a biome. I pretty much always had corruption, probably largely to do with the fact that that spawned in the worlds first, and I just hadn't really gone back and dealt with it to just try and get all of the stuff for quite a while. So, you know, it's a more recent revelation, the things that are in Crimson, and I'm not quite as familiar with them. So I'm wondering now if there's even more that I need to go concern myself with. Anyway, it seems like a slippery slope when I talk about Terraria stuff. It just gets very out of hand very quickly, because there's so many items and so much knowledge and information required. I mean, even from the very beginning, it was a rather information-intensive game. It's just only sextupled in crazy amounts of stuff in the last year or so. And I'm very interested in seeing where we're going to go with a sequel to this, where we even could go, because as it stands right now, the game is very well feature complete. I mean, there's more to this than I ever would have imagined could even be possible. So I am just going to put my trust in Redigit and hope for the best. And let's just see if there's any pyramids over here on the right before we maybe make our escape. It's not looking super positive. This is a large world. I forgot if I mentioned that or not. Seems like you have the best chance of them spawning in the case of a large world. So I figured we might as well, you know, traverse this area. And I figured, well, we would also maybe run into a few useful bait items as we were running about. And it seems like neither of the two things that I was betting on are coming to fruition, unfortunately. But, you know, as in life, you don't always get what you want, and you can watch this video sort of like a lottery scratch-off card. I don't know what's going to happen in the end of this. By the end of this video, I might encounter a boss that isn't even programmed into the game yet. And if I do, I will be very interested in how that happened, because that's very implausible, actually. I would dare say almost impossible, although I've had instances where the game has done some strange things that I didn't quite expect. So maybe the game will procedurally generate a new boss for me. Wouldn't that be fancy? That's all we really need, right? At this point, if you want to really extend the longevity of something like this, just make the game generate itself in unexpected and interesting ways. And I should probably go up for air now before this runs out. So what's new in the world of Rockleesmile? What kind of new developments have been going on lately? Not a ton of things in general. I've mostly just been doing my usual stuff, getting ready for PAX Prime. Going to my very first PAX Prime this year. I've been to 2 PAX East, but I've never taken the journey out to Washington to go partake in that. But I'm very excited. I'm going to go hang out with my friend Ryan, aka Northern Lion, also a YouTuber if you're not familiar, and a really, really good guy. So I'm going to hang out with him for a while. I'm going to stay at his place for a little while in Vancouver before we make our way to Seattle. And it's actually not super far away from him. So I'm very excited to do all of that stuff, but a little bit nervous as well, because, well, I have anxiety issues, and travel and all that is not really the most easy to do and intuitive thing. Mostly just worried because there's like a, what do they call it, a layover, I guess, in Chicago, where I'm coming from in New York. To get to Vancouver, there's a stop on the way, so I'm just hoping that goes smoothly, because I've never been to that airport, and I hope I don't, like, not know where I'm going, but I trust there will be enough guidelines that I'll be able to figure my way out. I'm a, you know, okay, adequately intelligent person, I would hope, and I can read, and I can look around and talk to people, so, you know, I'll figure all that stuff out. Other than that, And I'm just going to let it get dark here in case fireflies come out or anything. I'll just wander back and forth for a little while. I picked up the Last of Us Remastered Edition. I was apprehensive about buying it at first because I wasn't sure if it was worth the $50. And it just so happens that I had a couple of vouchers from having bought those consoles from Best Buy. So I figured, well, these are going to expire if I don't use them really soon. And they freaking give you, like, almost no time to use that money before it's gone. And they won't tell you about it when you're at the cash wrap either, which is kind of weird. So actually, I asked the guy when I was there buying the game, I was like, so, like, if I just wanted to ask you, like, in case I haven't been on my account in a while, can you just check and redeem the codes that I have? Because in my case, I had two $10 vouchers just sitting there waiting to be used. And he was like, yeah, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. And I'm curious to know if anybody in the comments actually works at Best Buy. Like, what's the rationale between the sometimes of that scenario? If you mean, like, because sometimes you don't have internet access, I guess, sure. But, like, beyond that, what kind of weird extenuating circumstances could come up where you, as a, you know, representative in a way, you know, someone who's operating the equipment that is owned by Best Buy Incorporated, why would you not have access to my files? I mean, every time I go there, you can look up my Reward Zone card, and you can punch in my phone number, and my name comes up, and my email address is tied to it, and then you make me hit enter and accept on the pin pad, and that's fine. I mean, whatever. It doesn't inconvenience me or anything. I just never bring the card with me. That's why I have to do that every time. But I'm curious to know why it would be sometimes, and why when I have those vouchers, you wouldn't want to tell me about them, because then you just make me a happier customer, right? You just save me some money at no cost or time proposition to you, and as someone working there, I would think, well, that would be awfully exciting. You can make somebody's day a little bit better. And my only thing at that point would be to say, well, does Best Buy just not want you to know about them, so the money goes away and is wasted, thereby saving them money? And I would think that is very likely to be the case, but, you know, that could also be the cynicism in me manifesting. So yeah, I would be curious to know what kind of theories you might have on that. Anyway, that was the longest and most ridiculous tangent I've gone on in a while, because the moral of the story was to say I bought The Last of Us Remastered for my PlayStation 4, and played it for a couple of hours. I actually did a live stream with it for a little while on Twitch, and, you know, it was kind of underwhelmed a little bit. I don't know really what my expectations were. I enjoyed The Last of Us when I had played it. Oh, I just picked up a calming potion. I don't know what that is. Let's have a quick look. Reduces enemy aggression. Alright, that would be really handy in the dungeon, I suppose, when we are traversing such places. I'm also going to equip my... No, I won't equip my crow in case it eats the bugs I need. Anyway, I was just saying, I did enjoy The Last of Us, at least to a certain extent. There were some things about it that reminded me very much of, like, the approach taken in Resident Evil 4, which I know a lot of people are super, super keen on. It seemed like a more pure version of that kind of thing, whereas, like, Resident Evil 5 took the Resident Evil 4 formula and diluted it and made it kind of weird. The only thing is, some of the negatives from that same formula kind of show through again in that, well, you've got some spotty AI, you've got some very strange levels of immersion and such, where things kind of seem a bit inconsistent. And, you know, I am aware of, like, how silly it is to call out inconsistencies in a game about, like, parasitic fungus taking over the world and such. So, you know, I'm not really nitpicking, but I also am at the same time because, hey, it's something to talk about, and I'm kind of interested in the discussion that can sometimes erupt from that sort of thing, too. But, you know, it seemed a little strange to me that you could shoot a dude in the face. Well, maybe not in the face, because that's usually a one-shot kill, but you shoot somebody in the torso 3 or 4 times, and then the thing that puts them down is actually when you beat them to death with a board, which then proceeds to splinter apart and break open. I mean, whatever, it's a video game. I'm aware that for balancing reasons, it would be pretty bizarre if it didn't work that way. And for the same reason, it would also be really immersion-breaking, or frustrating, I guess, more like, if as your character, you're also susceptible to that same level of damage. Well, I don't want to die in one gunshot wound. Also, they did make it so most of the enemies can kill you in one hit, provided you're in a particularly unfortunate set of circumstances, and that's fine. I mean, that doesn't really bother me, because it's partially a stealth game, too, and if you blow your cover, much like a Sam Fisher scenario, well, things might get ugly all of a sudden, and that's fine. But it just seems strange to me when you're just shooting normal human enemies in the torso a bunch of times, that they don't go down very easily. But again, I think that just falls back to gameplay and balancing and things like that. Anyway, that's not really the reason that I had any issues with it. I was mostly concerned with what's up with the remastering of games that are like a year old. Because it's not the first one. Also, Metro Last Light is coming out with a HD re-release, which is silly to say because it was a PC release that actually was not amazingly optimized and actually ended up taking up the vast majority of most people's ability to process the game. I mean, I've seen a lot of people complaining that their hardware was not sufficient when Last Light came out, so they're actually re-releasing it with more tasking effects and changes about it. And I'm honestly curious to know what's going to be the big change, because with The Last of Us, the big thing was, well, they made the poly count on the models be a bit higher. They made, I guess, some of the lighting to be a little bit crisper, perhaps. They've made the anti-aliasing a little bit better looking, and the frame rate more consistent, which, you know, those are good things. Those are all virtuous things to have in your game, especially when it's a game that is very much drawn to the idea of it being very, you know, hardware intensive, and they want to show off the power of their hardware processing, and that's totally cool. I'm all for marquee titles when they work properly, and for the most part, Last of Us does work properly. But I did notice a couple of strange things. You know, we're talking about a game that people potentially just bought for $60 pretty recently, buying again for $50, and yes, they did include the DLC, and all the multiplayer stuff is all unlocked and all of that, so that's, you know, respectable, because I think that was like a $30 value or so. But I did notice that there was, like, weird models. Like, I noticed a woman facing a fence that you're probably not supposed to actually notice or look at, but she just didn't have eyeballs at all. And it wasn't like, oh, they were trying to make her look blind or something. No, like, you could see into her eye sockets. There were just not eyes modeled there, because they wanted to save on poly count a little bit. And I guess I wonder somewhat, since The Last of Us is primarily a very linear game, it makes it look like it's not, but for the most part, you kind of just follow one main track through the most parts that I've seen anyway. And I haven't beaten the game still, so that is also a thing. I could be kind of wrong about that. But it seems like, how much optimization to the poly count should you really need if the game is primarily linear? It seems like you're not seeing huge, vast swaths of landscape ahead of you, and the poly counts are not all that high, are they? I don't know. I don't work in 3D modeling, so I guess I probably should hold my tongue a little bit, but I'm curious to know, anybody that has more experience with that stuff, what do you think of my assertions? Am I completely out of my depth in saying some of that stuff? It's interesting to me, the whole concept of weighing resources and stuff. And I know that also with the PlayStation 3, they had a very strange processor to deal with, being that it had the 8 cores and then the 9th buffer core, whatever that was. And then the PS4, I guess, was a little bit easier to program for, and some of the challenge in balancing this stuff out to try and get a good, solid, stable frame rate was also dealing with how do we readapt the code that addressed these 9 cores to now something that's, I think, a little bit more standard architecture with the PS4, although I'm not as familiar with what the makeup is hardware-wise of the PS4 as I probably even was with the PS3 at a certain time. Mining potion, do I know what that is? Which potions do we have? Oh, look at that. It's got a very strange anchor shape to it. Increases mining speed by 25%. So I guess we are getting into some new territories with potions. And I have not seen a single thing here that I can harvest for bait. I'm very sad about that. Oh, it's our angler. Hello, angler. Bart the angler. Okay. What is your quest? Trying to sleep by the hill lakeside when this fish swooped down at me. It was flying. It was a flying fish. It also had the face of a lady and had feathers. I think I screamed louder than she did. Hey, you, go make her pay for scaring me like that. So it's a harpy fish, and it's got a red text to it, which means probably fairly rare, or I don't know if that, or orange. Did I say red text? I meant orange text. Does that mean something in this particular situation? I don't actually know. Can I, oh, let's see if I can take a crab. No. No crab take. Sorry, crab. So, I guess that's going to leave us with a bit of an odd position here. I guess I should spawn another map and see what happens. Maybe we could find a pyramid on the second try, because right now, not the most fruitful situation as it turns out. So I'm going to go ahead and save and quit and make a new map, and then I will rejoin you after that break. So I'll see you in just a sec. Alright, we are back, and we are on another world that I've called Sandy ? What is that? Oh, they're beautiful cardinals. Can I capture cardinals with my net? I can. I've got a cardinal. That is kind of awesome. Oh, it's like a little adorable ball. Oh, I don't want to keep it, but I also like it a lot. That's the eternal conundrum, isn't it? You see something cute, you just want to love it all the time. But it's also a living, breathing being, and you should also let it free. Anyway. So I've made a new world, and we're going to check this out for pyramids again very briefly before we wrap up the episode, just because, well, I wanted to give it 2 tries instead of just 1. And I was watching the generation scheme, I was just thinking, like, how great is the idea of Starbound, and how sad is it that, like, it's not as fun as Terraria to me. I'm thinking that, like, what if you had an entire world dedicated to one concept when you create these seeds for things? Like, if we just discovered a completely desert-based world, or a completely cavernous world, or something like that. That's basically what Starbound did, only I just really like the progression mechanisms and the way that the game flows so much better in Terraria. And I am also aware that doing something like that and then trying to balance it would be the worst nightmare known to man, so I'm not even sure that what I'm positing right now is even remotely possible from a gameplay perspective, or a game design perspective, but still, you know, it's fun to think at times. Like, how cool would it be if you discovered a world that was half neon glowing mushroom jungle and half hell full of crystals, or something like that? Like, I know it's very specific to say such things, but I just do really like that concept, and it's just so frustrating to me that I can't play Starbound the way that I play Terraria, because it's basically what I wanted it to be, just not at the same time. So anyway, that's why I keep talking about Terraria 2, because I'm just really hoping that that is something like that. And the game as it stands right now, this version of Terraria, is also fantastic, and I just want to see it just keep getting even better and even more improved. And I'm just imagining, like, what if it was something like Mario Galaxy, where you kind of find a bunch of planets that are also loosely connected to each other in some way, and maybe you procedurally generate a galaxy instead of just one world, and then you maybe, for some reason, need to travel between the planets, and there's some sort of tying mechanism that keeps them linked together for balance sake that allows you to need to move back and forth to these things, sort of like a very rudimentary and loosely drawn Metroidvania, which is kind of what Terraria actually was, even though I don't think we really talk about it that way. It's a free-form Metroidvania in a way, because you can get to a lot of the goals from so many different paths that it's almost not even worth pointing out that there's a progression mechanic when it comes down to something very strict, the way that you're familiar with seeing Metroid do it. Alright, so we've got nothing going on the left, so I guess we'll mirror already. I don't even want to explore the jungle, or the ocean this time. But what I'm saying is, like, in Super Metroid, for example, you'll go through, and every time you play the game, unless you're trying to speedrun or come up with some kind of new and original route, you're pretty much going to run into the same items in roughly the same pattern, give or take a few items. You know, you're going to get your morphing ball, you're going to get your power bomb, or your missile, you're going to get your bombs, then you're going to get your missiles, so on and so forth. Energy tank will fall in there somewhere, and you'll just keep going down that same road. But in this game, yeah, you still want to get to the same end goal, which is super OP equipment, but you're going to get to it in a lot of different ways. You're going to get different speeds at which you'll come across the different heart crystals that you'll find in the ground, which are very much your analog to an, extra, life unit, a knee tank, or what have you. There's various different ways you could take that in terms of talking about different games, including Mega Man. But yeah, I mean, it is a Metroidvania, it's just I don't think we really acknowledge it, and I just think it's kind of interesting, and I wonder how much and to what degree that influences my interest in Terraria, because it probably has a lot more to do with it than I even would have noticed at first. I just have some kind of real huge thing about, like, explore a big old world and collect stuff and make your character ever more progressively powerful. And this is the Super Metroid archetype just taken to very close to a logical progression, to the end of a logical progression, I should say, although I still believe that there is room for ever expanding the same concept even further. So I'm sad to report that it seems like we're getting close to maybe another ocean here, and I don't see much in the way of deserts. I really wanted to just get lucky on this one. I was up all night, and I didn't get lucky with Terraria seed generation. Take that however you will. I don't want to look in that chest. I'm always tempted whenever I see a chest. I'm like, oh, am I going to go visit that? Nope. But there's very little that could be worth finding anymore. At this stage in the game, anyway. I am also aware that pyramids can spawn slightly under the desert before anyone says that, but there are usually some sort of telltale signs when that happens. I mean, I guess if we really wanted to nitpick, I could do this really fast just to expose some light to the area. But this is not the shape that we would expect a pyramid to spawn in. I mean, I guess maybe it could have spawned, like, very low down here or something. But they're pretty big, actually. Those suckers are very big. And in fact, if I did go this far down, and there was one, I think the width of the landscape under me would probably reveal that position very quickly. So I'll just kind of go very quickly again down in this direction as well. Just sort of feeling out the desert here, making sure things are the way I expect them to be. And yeah, alright, so we're not getting anywhere with this concept. So I don't know, man. I don't know what the best progression mechanic is going to be for me at this point. Whether or not I should continue to do things like this, whether or not I should try and build one of those farms like you guys were suggesting, so I can try and make the truffle worms, which are what I need to trigger the boss encounter with Fish Boss. I mean, I do want to fight Fish Boss, but I also want to make sure that I've got what I need here. Am I breaking into a dungeon right now? What is this green rock? This is very dungeony looking. If I break in, I'm gonna get wrecked in like 3 seconds. This is super dungeony. Oh, it's totally a dungeon. Alright, I'm not gonna trigger the ire of this skeletron skull, because nothing good comes from that. For some reason, I think I had it backward in my head which side of the world that I discovered the dungeon on. That's why I was so confused about whether or not that was a dungeon. It's a pretty obviously one when it said a green brick. But for some reason, I thought that the entrance was on the left. I guess we'll just finish out walking over to the right. And at the very least, we had some okay discussion here regarding things that are coming up and things that are happening. And I always like to posit some questions, and I did that throughout the course of this episode. So yeah, if you are a former or current Best Buy employee and you want to chime in about what's up with your reward zone system, feel free to let me know on that. Also, if you have any suggestions about where you think I should go for the next episode, what you think the next progression key point should be, feel free to let me know that as well. I am definitely curious as to what your opinions are. I might record another one of these, so maybe I'll come to my own conclusions prior, but I will still weigh all of that in, and I still do read all of the comments, so if you've ever left one, trust me, I did read it. And my apologies if I didn't reply directly, but, you know, only so much time in the day, I suppose, and almost only so much time to devote to each episode. But still, hopefully we had an enjoyable time. I certainly did anyway. So thank you, everybody, for watching. We're going to wrap up this one for the day. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider leaving a like on the episode. It helps me out a whole bunch. And I will see you again for another episode of Terraria as soon as possible. I'm thinking about maybe just doing a big old backlog of these for when I'm away. Maybe we could just do like a solid week of just Terraria uploads, including, well, indie impressions, as long as that goes as according to plan. So, you know, if that's something you're interested in, maybe we could work that out. I certainly have a good time playing Terraria. I wonder sometimes if, with the lack of new things to discover, maybe I'll just run out of things to talk about unless I start delving into too many personal issues. And, you know, that's fine too. I guess we can do that from time to time. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I will see you on the next one, and I hope you have a fantastic night. Talk to you later.